students, GC alumni, because most of us missed our Zhuldyz. So with a great pleasure, I introduce our today's speaker, Zhuldyz Amankulova. But before I will give her words and the stage floor, please let me know that our meeting will be recording, and later you will be able to find it on our YouTube channel. So, and at the end of this meeting, I will conduct some very short survey, just 4 questions. And also, please, dear students, dear participants, write your questions below because Zhuldyz will answer after her presentation. So, dear Zhuldyz, thank you for your initiation, even to take and hold this session. So, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Kaini. I really appreciate the opportunity to share my experience, and thank you for all the participants for taking time to come to this talk. I really appreciate it. And let me share my screen.
Sure.
Okay, can everybody see my slides?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good evening, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Good to see some of my friends and colleagues
Sure.
from NU. Hello, everyone. As you
Very
know,
glad to see you.
Thank you, Milda. Today I'll talk about my PhD journey in the US, and my identity as a graduate student parent is critical to how I experienced this journey. So I'll pay particular attention to navigating the program and parenthood and my family responsibilities. And we will you will have the opportunity to ask questions by the end of the presentation. So if you have some questions, you can put on in the chat, as Kaini already mentioned. So the outline for this talk, first of all, I'd like to thank everyone who sent their questions ahead of time. It was really helpful in designing this presentation, because it's always good to know what the audience is and what they are expecting. And second, I want to mention why have I decided to give this talk. I believe in the power of mentorship, and I had mentors that guided me through this entire process, and I hope this talk will help some of you to progress towards making a decision of whether to pursue or not to pursue a PhD. So if this happens, then I achieved my goal for this presentation. And in the presentation, I'll talk about my family support, Nazarbayev University experience, my PhD application process, funding, integrating my personal and professional life, a research topic journey, and my support system at this university. And also I'll end by sharing what would I do differently if I were to pursue a PhD again. This is the village where I spent most of my early childhood. My grandmother in the village took care of me from the time I was 1 year old, while my parents worked and lived in the city. Although my grandmother did not attend school after the 8th grade, she believed in the transformative power of education and shared her wisdom with me. My parents believed that education is the only way to get out of poverty, and they invested in educating me and my siblings. And in summary, my family instilled in me the love for learning and hard work. So pursuing a PhD was a family decision for me. I would not have come this far without the support from my family, including my parents, my husband, and my in-laws and extended family. Now I'd like to talk about my intellectual journey towards a PhD. And Nazarbayev University played a critical role in motivating me to pursue a PhD. And I want to specifically talk about 2 factors that pushed me towards pursuing a PhD. And first of them was people I met at Nazarbayev University. My experience of working with professors and being part of the establishment of such an ambitious project has been truly inspiring. And we were creating new policies, procedures, and I was working closely with faculty and learning about their journey. And a new faculty's passion to their disciplines inspired me to pursue a similar career. And second factor was as an administrative staff member of Nazarbayev University since 2012, I developed a strong interest in student support. I also became aware that the transitional experience for Nazarbayev University students is an important component of their academic success. And based on this professional experience, I became interested in studying how the transition from school to university can be structured to maximize the likelihood of student success. And I also wanted to experience being a student of Nazarbayev University. So all of these factors motivated me to apply for a master's degree at Nazarbayev University Graduate School of Education. I'll be honest, when I initially started the master's program, I wasn't quite sure in my skills and abilities. In other words, I was going through imposter syndrome. I'm sure you know what it is. However, I ended up being quite successful in the program, and I really enjoyed doing research, learning about different theories and methodologies, and connecting with faculty and my peers in the program. I studied the transition experiences of Nazarbayev University freshmen for my master's thesis, and I also further explored this topic in my participation in a new GSE Research Institute project on student transitions in Kazakhstan. And I'm really grateful for Nazarbayev University faculty who encouraged me to pursue a PhD. So if I summarize, my experience at Nazarbayev University helped me to understand that I want to pursue a PhD to further explore the topics of interest to me. Even though I knew I want to pursue a PhD, I wasn't quite sure if I can do it with a young child. At the time when I was pursuing my master's degree, I was pregnant. And my child was actually born 2 weeks after I defended my master's thesis. So trying to decide whether I can or cannot do a PhD with a young child, I talked to one of the faculty members who had 3 kids when she was pursuing a PhD, and she actually did her PhD in the University of Minnesota. So talking to her inspired me to move forward with my application process for a PhD program. And so she was my role model. One of the requirements for a PhD program, as you all know, is GRE. And I didn't have much time to prepare for GRE because as a new GSE master's program is an intensive program. And I also had a child right at the moment I graduated from the program. And I also had some complications with my delivery. So I couldn't really work, study, or read any book until October. So I was recovering. And my test, I scheduled my test, and my test was in early November. And I had less than a month to prepare for the test. And it was the first time I was going to take this test. So I didn't know what this test was about. So that time was only enough to familiarize myself with the structure. And in preparing, I've mostly focused on quantitative reasoning. And I think, so I passed the test. Some of you asked what was my score. I can't remember, but I was in the mean range. So I scored the average score. I think the fact that I was a fresh graduate helped me in taking the test, because my master's thesis was a mixed method study. So I was familiar with both quantitative and qualitative methods. So that, I think, helped me in taking this test. And I also actually want to mention a few things about the role of GRE in the application process. GRE is not the most significant factors that determine your admission to the program. Actually, a growing number of programs are dropping the GRE as an application requirement, and recent studies showed little correlation between GRE scores and success in graduate school. There are also concerns that the test puts underrepresented groups at a disadvantage, and according to recent studies, GRE scores didn't predict which students passed their qualifying exams, how long they spent in the program, how many publications they accrued, or whether they received an individual grant or fellowship. So keep in mind that the committee looks at the whole package. GRE does not tell the story of who you are and why you are applying for the program. I would actually spend enough time writing a compelling story of your journey towards a PhD and your research interests and why you think you are a good fit for this program. And I would also seek feedback from faculty and peers on your motivation letters and allow your faculty enough time to write recommendation letters for you. And next, I want to talk about factors that influenced my choice of university. Some of you asked this question. I talked to faculty at Nazarbayev University in choosing the university for my PhD program. And I think some of the major factors that we considered were the cost of living and also family-friendly environments. So we immediately excluded big cities like and expensive places like New York from our choices because we wanted an affordable and family-friendly place. And University of Minnesota was actually among my top choices, and it offered a very competitive program in my field. So I was very happy when I was admitted to the University of Minnesota. And I want to share a few things about funding. Some of you had questions about funding, and there are multiple ways to fund your program in a PhD, and I think most common is the first one, assistantships. It can be teaching assistantship, research assistantships, graduate assistantships, and how it works is that the university offers you a position, one of these positions, and then it can be 25% or 50%. So if it's 50%, your tuition will be waived in full. If it's 25%, it will be a partial waive of your tuition. And then your salary that you receive for working for the university will cover your living expenses. So that's how it works. And I want to add that you know, it varies between universities. Not all universities offer assistantships for the entire period of your PhD program. PhD is a long journey, and you don't always say when you are starting, this is how long I'm going to take to finish the PhD. And for instance, in my program, they offered assistantships for the first year in the program. And then they said after the first year, we will see if there is availability of funding. And then if they don't extend your assistantship, then you don't have funding and you have to figure out how do you fund your program further. So we could not take that risk because, you know, moving with the family, it's a big decision. So we needed a guaranteed funding for the entire period of the program. So I applied for the Bolshak program to fund my studies in the PhD, and I received the Bolshak scholarship in 2016, and so that's how I funded my program. But there are also other scholarships, fellowships, grants that you can find. Some universities offer. You just have to search. I can't speak much to that because I haven't gone through that process, but I know that there is Fulbright for students outside the US. And this is a great way to fund your program because you receive a stipend and you don't have the pressure to work to cover your living expenses. And one thing that I want to add here is that when you have a scholarship, it may actually limit your opportunities to get the job on campus. This happened to me, especially within your department, maybe, because I applied for jobs in my department because, you know, it's very important for your professional growth that you work as a research assistantship, as a teaching assistantship, especially if you are considering a career in academia. And because I already had a scholarship, I did not have the need for assistantships because it comes with funding, you know. So I wasn't able to get any job in my department. But luckily I was able to find a job outside my department. So there is a possibility to apply, you know, and to get a job, but it's a very competitive process, I would say. So that's been my experience, at least. And I would also ask, your advisors, your faculty members in the programs you are applying about fellowships and, for campus jobs, they would be able to offer you some advice on that. And the last way to fund your program can be applying for loans. And there are loans for international students. I'm not familiar with that because, again, I didn't apply for them, so I don't know. But I do know that there are loans in some universities for international students. You just have to ask for them and search for them on the websites of each university. So that's briefly about funding. So my PhD journey. So this is I was, as I was preparing for this talk, I was going over my old notes from my first semester, especially, and this was shared by our director of graduate studies in our program during my first semester. It was 2016. You can see some of my notes here that I was taking as they were giving this talk. So these are basically the milestones that you have to complete in order to get a PhD degree in our university, in our program. And it really varies, between programs. So I won't go into details of describing this. I'll just say, like, usually there are some milestones, like there are some exams. So in our case, we did written prelim exam, oral prelim exam, then there is a prospectus meeting and you establish your final committee. And I'm currently in this doing my study stage. So the next stage would be writing up my findings and then defending the dissertation. And some of you also asked about the difference between US and Europe, programs in the US and Europe. I think one of the big differences would be the coursework, because as you are going through these milestones related to your dissertation, you are also taking coursework. So there is required coursework that you have to do when you apply to a program in the US. It is not required in the programs in the UK, I know for sure, and maybe some European countries, from what I know. So that's probably one of the major differences that I know, but I can't speak much to those programs because, again, I haven't applied or I haven't explored them. I just know from my friends who are pursuing their degrees in the UK. So, when you look at this chart, it looks as if there is this linear process, as in the above, so the line, when you start a PhD, there is a straight line. There is a start, and then you do your research, and you write your findings, and there is an end. But reality is much more different than that. It's more like a curved line when you have your ups and downs, and then a lot of challenges and celebrations. So that's how it happens in reality. And this is not my chart. Actually, this comes from my peers shared it, so I don't exactly know, but it was shared on Facebook by someone that I couldn't find the source. And so I shared this, and now I want to talk about my journey specifically and how I was integrating my personal and professional life. And when you are embarking on a new journey, there are a lot of uncertainties. And we didn't know what to expect, but my husband and I decided to trust the process. And in this and the next slide, I'll share some of the events that were taking place in my personal and professional life. And I hope it will give an idea of how I integrated my personal and professional life. And I already talked about 2015 and my application process, and I'll start from 2016, and blue text are the events that were happening in my personal life, and black are the events in my professional life. And I won't talk about all of the events, but I just rather share some highlights of that year. So 2016 was the year I was admitted to the program. After receiving the admission letter, I applied for a Bolashak, as I already said, and after I was rewarded the scholarship, we moved to the US. As you can imagine, there is a lot that goes with moving process for a family with a young child. So we had some challenges in transitioning, including language barrier for my husband. And my husband was very supportive of this journey for our family. And I successfully completed my first semester in the program. 2017 was full of events. I made my first presentation in the largest professional association in our field, which is Comparative and International Education Society. We were expecting our second child, and we had to make some adjustments to our plans. My husband started working during that time, and my mom visited us and helped with childcare. However, my mom couldn't stay long, so we decided to send our older son to Kazakhstan with her. Since I was still taking classes and my husband couldn't leave his job and we couldn't afford a daycare at the time, this seemed like the only choice we had. However, it was very difficult to be away from our son, and we ended up inviting him back after a few months. And I took an academic leave during the fall semester to take care of my kids. Returning to school after one semester of academic leave was challenging for me. My younger son was only 3 months old, and I was taking classes and also getting ready to take my written prelim exams. And I'm really grateful. My parents helped with kids, and we also started sending our older son to daycare that year. And 2018 was also the year I started my first on-campus job as a teaching assistant, and I published my first article in a peer-reviewed journal. And the highlights of 2019 was taking my oral prelim exam, which is the biggest milestone in our program. So I defended my proposal and I became a PhD candidate. I also started being actively engaged in CIES Eurasia Special Interest Group. This is the interest group for our region. And I was elected as a secretary for Eurasia SIG. My original plan for 2020, so I'm transitioning to 2020 now, was to travel to Kazakhstan in the spring semester to conduct my fieldwork. However, due to the dynamically changing situation with COVID-19, I had to change my fieldwork plans in a way so I could still conduct my fieldwork online. And I had my prospectus meeting scheduled for the first week after the spring break, exactly at the time things started to dramatically change in the US. So in summary, COVID had a significant impact on my progress towards my dissertation. Things also got complicated because we didn't send our kids to daycare and my parents couldn't come to help us. So I've become the full-time childcare provider, and I could only work for a few hours at nights after kids went to bed, and it continued for several months. And although I planned to complete my data collection in the spring semester of this year, I spent most of my spring and even summer semester modifying my study design, and I'm currently still in the process of collecting data. I was also offered the instructor position for the course I used to be a teaching assistant for, so it has been a great learning experience for me to serve as the primary instructor of the course that I used to be a TA for. So this is, this is how I was integrating my personal and professional life. And now I'd like to talk about my journey towards my research topic. And, you know, in PhD, you are taking coursework in the US, you are taking coursework, but you are also simultaneously figuring out your research topic, and then you are going through the process of exams and defending your proposal. So I was, this image here like very accurately represents the process for me, because I was very ambitious in the beginning. And I remember when I had meetings with my advisor and shared my research interests and what I want to do for my dissertation, my advisor would say, all of this sounds wonderful, but you can write like 5 dissertations on the topics you mentioned. So let's figure out what aspect we want to focus on. So the process of narrowing my topic was challenging for me. I kept wanting to accomplish a lot with my dissertation, like to address all of the possible challenges and problems in education system in Kazakhstan. So I was overly ambitious. And it's actually, from my experience, common among my peers to view your dissertation project as a masterpiece, and you want this to be your best work, since it's your entry point to the field of your expertise. So that puts a lot of pressure. And I also kept chasing what others would find most interesting and important and needed. However, the revelation for me came in the process of deep reflection on my own experiences and my own life story. It was a transformative moment for me as I started appreciating and viewing my experience in much more complex way than I did ever before. Even though, you know, PhD was the fourth degree I was pursuing, I didn't take the time to engage in this deep reflection of my own experience and my own positionalities before the way I did during this program. So upon reflecting on my experiences, I became interested in exploring the experiences of students from similar backgrounds as I am. So the puzzle for me in the dissertation is why some marginalized youth in Kazakhstan find opportunities for academic and career success while others don't. And I want to examine the factors that facilitate or constrain educational and career aspirations of students from marginalized backgrounds. And I hope to create structures to support educational and career aspirations of more students from marginalized backgrounds. And I want to note here about research topic, one more thing. I remember one of our Nazarbayev University professors mentioned that finding the right topic is like marrying the right person. Your relationship with your topic has a big impact on your career. I partially agree with this statement, since I think it is important to study the topic that you are really passionate about. At the same time, I think it's critical to keep in mind that your dissertation topic does not have to be the thing you research your entire life. Your research interests will expand as you enhance your knowledge of a certain this field, and sometimes it might even shift. So you may also create interdisciplinary connections, which are really valuable these days. And these connections might have an impact on your research interests as well. So what I want to say that your PhD dissertation is just the beginning of your, research journey. Next, I want to transition to talk about the community at this university. First, I want to talk why it's important and how to build a community. PhD can be a lonely process and lonely journey if you don't invest time in building community. And I do believe that it takes a village to raise a PhD, and I'm really grateful for the communities that supported me throughout this journey. Without their support, I wouldn't have come this far. Honestly, when I look back and think of this journey, what I remember the most are the times that we spent together with my family, my friends, whom I met along this journey. And I'm really grateful I had the community with whom I could cry, laugh, and enjoy the process. A lot of times, only PhD students get what PhD students go through. With my peers in the program, I don't need to explain anything, but only say, okay, this is the courses I'm taking, and this is the exam that I'm doing now. And they would immediately get what it takes to be going through that process. And a few strategies of how to build the communities, I'll share how I approached it. It can be actually very difficult to build the community, especially as a graduate student parent. You have competing responsibilities, and it's extremely difficult to find time for, attending events and spending time with your friends. And then I think this process doesn't happen naturally. You have to be intentional, because there are, in most programs that I know, you don't take many classes together. You have a cohort, but especially when you are in the writing stage of your dissertation and you are done with your coursework, you can be very lonely. So I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to make the time to build the community. And some of the things that helped me and helped my peers to build a community where within the department, our cohort stayed together. We organized weekly get-togethers, such as Taco Tuesdays, we used to call them. And we would celebrate together our smallest and biggest milestones. We learned about each other's culture and shared traditions. So we were a very diverse group from different countries. We provided each other feedback on our projects and exams. We practiced our exams together. We would pretend that we are the committee members and we would be practicing our exams before the exam. We also practiced job interviews. I also used to bring my kids to some of these events, and my kids became like a cohort kids, and my friends became like a family for my kids. And outside of my department, some of the things that helped me were I used to attend the writing center a lot to get feedback on my writing projects. I really like to brainstorm ideas and get feedback from other people on my projects. So I became very close friends with my writing consultant, and we stay connected until today. And sometimes I feel like she knows my project and research interests even more than I do, because she sometimes suggests me some ideas, or isn't this that you told, and maybe you want to include this. So it's been really helpful. And it also helped me to live in a community cooperative with other graduate students. And most of the grad students in the community that I live are parents as well. So we have that immediate connection. So we were able to build community with neighbors as well. And the next slide is about seeking resources. I want to talk about, you know, in most US universities, especially the big ones like the University of Minnesota, there are a lot of resources available for students. And there are support groups. I joined Student Parent Help Center. We used to have lunch with other grad student parents. So it was really nice to connect with other grad student program, like parents from across different disciplines. And International Student and Scholar Services Office has been really helpful. And there are a lot of mental health resources, and some, we also had some, you know, groups for PhD students. And it was, I know some of my peers attended, and they really found it helpful to be sharing their experience with other PhD students who are going through that same process. And there is Conflict Resolution Center. And I would also emphasize the importance of campus engagement. I wasn't engaged as much as I wanted to because of, you know, a lot of other competing responsibilities, but I did involve some in events organization in my department and in my college. And in my first semester, I involved in GradSet, which is a student group for graduate students in our college, and I volunteered in First Gen Institute. And so volunteering in that First Gen Institute, I met a faculty member who later became my a member of my committee. And the cooperatives like the one that I live is great for, I think, people with kids. And with navigating childcare, school system, health insurance system, I think it can be really overwhelming. So I found the process overwhelming. And when you go on the website and try to figure out like what is it that's available, so it's really overwhelming. So the strategy I used was asking people. I asked my neighbors who had kids or other friends who had kids. So that's how I navigated all of that process. And lastly, I want to share what would I do differently if I were to pursue a PhD again. And with the application process, as I already mentioned, I didn't have enough time, but if I had time, I would talk to current students in the program. It's very helpful when you to get a sense of the department and the culture of the department, and they can share a lot about the faculty. You know, for instance, I get approached by prospective students, and I'm always glad to share my experience with them. And I would also talk to program coordinators, faculty, and in the program, and ask about, you know, what they're looking for in applicants. So that can be really helpful as you are working on your application package. And with course selection, when I share it with my friends, they always laugh at me. So don't take too many courses. I did take many courses. I actually ended up taking more than that it was required in my program. You know, I couldn't find a job in the beginning, and I had this mindset. So I'm here for a limited time, and I had to make the most of this experience. And one of the ways is probably to take a lot of courses so that I can learn a lot. And then that was one of the strategies that I used. So I took a lot of courses, but I don't recommend doing that because it's very stressful, and then it has an effect on your well-being. You don't sleep, and then it affects your family relationships. So I wouldn't do that again. And when I actually couldn't register for courses, meaning I had no time to register for more courses, I would audit a course. So auditing is when you register for a course, but you don't get a credit. So you will have access to the course syllabi, and you can attend the classes, and you can even work on the assignments. And professors, it really varies by professor, but they can provide feedback on your assignments even if you are auditing a course. But what I realized was that I was auditing the course because I was overwhelmed that semester and I didn't have time to take that course. But if you don't have time to invest in the course, I would not take the course, because you are not likely to learn a lot, since especially you learn by doing. And if you don't have time to do the assignments and the readings and participate in discussions, that's probably there is little you are gaining from that course. I would probably also start taking more challenging courses earlier, because in the beginning of the program, I thought, okay, let me start slow, like I'll take 5,000 level courses and see how it goes. But I think I learned most from the most challenging courses I took. So I would probably start taking those heavy theory and methodology courses as early as possible, and take actually more of those. And I would also talk to students about professors, because most of the times it's not about the course, but it's about the professor. So it can be a really interesting course, but you learn a lot from the professor, like about their teaching style and then their research interests. So I would ask students about professors when you are registering for courses. Engagement in the department, I'll probably try to involve in some research projects in my department early. As I said, I wasn't able to get a job in my department, but there are other ways, probably like to volunteer or suggest a project to work with your faculty. So those things can be really useful to get an experience of doing research with your faculty. And networking during conferences is very important, and we knew that. We were told how it's important from our first semester, but when I think my first conferences, I didn't do a really good job. So I would recommend to pay special attention to networking during conferences and meeting the professors whose books you read, and attending their sessions, asking questions. So I was attending during my first conference a lot of sessions, and I was trying to figure out where do I belong in this field. So that would be probably I would probably do it differently the next time. And in terms of my personal life, I would not send my son to Kazakhstan. I regretted that choice, and it was probably one of the most challenging periods in this journey. We would probably try to figure out some other ways. At that time, it seemed like there was no other option, but I did regret that decision. So those are the things that I would do differently. And now I would open for questions.
Okay,
can I start? Oh, sorry.
No, you go first. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Zhuldyz, this was so good presentation, and I'm amazed how you can manage a personal life and a PhD. I have a question regarding the not motivation letter, recommendation letters of professors. I heard that there is a higher probability to get enrolled to PhD in the United States if one of your letters will be from professors who is working in the United States and who is have or experience work teaching in the United States. So could you please comment on that?
I can see that, but I don't think I'll be the best person to comment because, you know, I'm not involved in admission process, but I can see why it might be the case. And if you have faculty who have some experience working in the US, those faculty would probably also know what hiring committee in this like US universities are expecting, or what they want to see in your application. But I'm not sure like if I can provide more information about that, because that's not what I heard or experienced.
Oh, okay. So your recommendation letters were from just Nazarbayev universities professors, or for example, you chose another person who were your employee, or first professor. How could you please tell me how you choose your professors who would like give you the letter?
Yeah. For Minnesota, for instance, I chose a professor who did pursue her PhD in Minnesota because she was familiar with the program and she shared a lot with me about the program. And I did one of my like letter writers were my employers, and they were so I worked in Nazarbayev University School of Humanities and Social Sciences. So I asked my employers there, and one was the faculty member with whom I took classes in the NUGSE program. So that's how I approached it. And yeah, I think so because they could speak to the academic part, and then my employers could speak to my work experience, and then you can always provide some you know, bullet points to your to your letter writers, like these are the things that I'm talking in my motivational letter. If you can hit on those skills, or you know, on those interests, then they can, I think you can do that if you want. So then they can speak to certain experiences that you had. So if you want those to be highlighted in the letter. I haven't done that, but I heard here that it's one of the strategies that students can employ in asking their letter writers for recommendation letters.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, seems like I missed that a little. So my first question is, what's the name of your exact major while PhD or in master's?
Oh, yeah. So the name of my major is, it's PhD in Organizational Leadership Policy and Development, and specific program that I'm in is Comparative and International Development Education. I haven't.
Oh, God.
It's a long name. We say CIDE, but it's a very long name.
EID.
Yeah.
Okay,
CID.
I got it.
Yeah, CID.
Yeah, okay, I got that. So I apologize a little, but I'm mostly interested about your husband. So how he was doing while you were in education, and what did he do at this time? That's what I'm interested in.
Yeah, sure. I can talk. I can speak to that. So when we arrived, I mentioned he didn't speak English, so it was a challenging transition for us in terms of that. And we applied for a work permit for him during the first semester, and we did receive a work permit during our second semester here, and we started looking for jobs for him, applying to different jobs. So then he started working from our second semester here, and he continues to work through this day. So he was mostly working, and he was also taking some English classes. So we found some classes here. So he's been like taking classes and working. So that's been his, so that's been what he was doing. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does answer my question. Well, I think you should be grateful for your husband, because I think he's a really nice guy. And yeah, value him, please.
No, I do. I mentioned, I don't know if you were there in the beginning, I wouldn't have come this far without the support from my husband, my parents, and my family. So I do see it as a family endeavor. So this is a journey. It wasn't only for me, it was for our family. And we wanted this experience for our entire family. And I'm extremely grateful for the support that I have from my husband, my parents, and all of my family members.
Well, reason I'm repeating that I already heard that you mentioned him that his support was valuable, but from my perspective right now, it seems like he deserves much more effort. Not really much more appreciation. I mean, from my perspective right now. So yeah, I do believe that you appreciate him a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Sorry. Okay, you can go first, probably.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. And thank you, Zhuldyz, for the inspiring presentation. Actually, I intend to apply for PhD next year, but I feel that it's a big commitment. And I have two questions. First, you know that in Kazakhstan, applying for PhD, in order to apply for PhD, you need work experience, like 2 years or 3 years. But I heard from my professors that in USA or in Europe, you don't need work experience, so it's not a must for PhD application. How do you think, is it important to have extensive work experience in your field before applying to PhD? And my second question is about approaching supervisors before you apply to the university. For example, I searched for faculty profile in my target university, and I have some professors with whom I share some common research interests. So I would like to email them and ask them if they want to be supervisor during my PhD. So yeah.
So your question with the second one is, are you asking if...
Is it okay to approach supervisors before your application?
Yeah, I think it's very good practice to do. I'm starting from your second question, sorry. Yeah, it is a good practice to approach a faculty and then ask them if they would be interested in being your supervisor. It gives you a really good sense if they are interested, and if they say yes, you can even mention it in your motivation letter. So I do think it's a good strategy to do, and I would do it that way if I were to apply again. And in terms of work experience, I agree that it's not required. And if you have some experience like related to teaching, research, I think it just helps you to make your application stronger. So if you can speak to some of those experiences that you had in relation when you're telling your story, so that can be helpful. But I wasn't sure if your question was like, is it good for you, or is it good when they consider your application?
I meant the second. Is it good to have a good work experience before applying to PhD?
I mean,
does it increase my chances to get admitted?
Yeah. I mean, it's always good to have a related experience, and it I think it's always good to have that. It helps you to build a stronger letter, but it doesn't mean that if you don't have that experience, you shouldn't apply. You can always, as long as you can make the case in your motivation letter for why you are interested in pursuing this degree, and what experiences you have in doing research or like in relation to your research topics. So if you can argue and tell the compelling story, I mean, it's always good. I'm not saying like, but I wouldn't wait only because I don't have experience if I want to apply now. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you a lot.
You're welcome. I think Zhuldyz is raising her hand.
Yes, thank you. I want to ask, during the consideration, could you please tell me which kind of GPA will be much more valuable, GPA of master's or GPA of bachelor's degree?
Unfortunately, I can't speak to that because, as I said, I wasn't on the other side of so I would assume maybe your master's, because this is the most recent, especially if it's related to your field, and maybe the subjects that are related to the program that you are applying would probably be more like considered, or they will look at it. But again, it's especially in our field that I know that the statement of purpose, your motivational letter, so that's it's very important to have enough time to writing a very compelling motivational letter.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, the quick second question. How important it is to have a publication in the field that you want to do a PhD?
I did have a publication in the field that I want to do a PhD. I had some, presentations and other publications. So I don't think that it's a must from my experience. It can vary from field to field, but I don't think it's a must. And in most PhD programs, I know in Kazakhstan, there are PhD programs that requires that you have a publication. It's not a requirement, but it's always good to start publishing during the program if you want to pursue a career in academia.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'd like
hello.
to ask. Yeah,
Sorry.
I would wait. Yeah, I already.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Zhuldyz, thank you very much for your presentation. I don't know, can you hear me?
I can. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Ludmila, and I also actually now I'm planning to apply for, abroad for a PhD also. And my question is, so for example, some American universities, they can provide, let's say, like applications, so you can be admitted for the university first, but then they can say that you can probably apply for assistantships. Let's say if you don't have funding. And what do you think? Is it a good way, let's say, like, is it okay if you first be admitted and then you can have these assistantships? Or it may be like you will not have a job at once, and it can be a risky experience or something like this.
I think most of the, I don't have much experience, applying for assistantships when I was applying for the program, but I do think that that's how it works in most programs, that you first are admitted to the program, then they tell you whether you will have an assistantship. So the first step is always being admitted to the program. And then when you are applying to assistantships in the university, you must be a student of that university to be eligible to apply for assistantship. So that's how it works from my experience and from what I know. Yeah, with assistantships, it can, as I said, it really varies from program to program, from university to university. You will just have to maybe ask the specific department you are applying, how it works, or even the university, the admission department in the university, and they can hopefully answer like those types of specific questions about how it works in their university.
Yeah, okay, thank you. One more question, quick question, yeah. So also somebody asked about professors, like potential supervisors. For example, first you write letters to them, and probably, because I also tried to do like this, but sometimes they also saying about funding. Like first you need to be sure about how will you fund your study, and then we can connect with you. I mean, is it like, do you have probably such experience, or it's just a polite way to say no, that I won't be your supervisor? What do you think?
I think they are asking this because, when they are considering a decision about admitting students, they are also considering funding. So if you say that you already have thought about funding, so maybe if you are applying for scholarships like Bolashak or other fellowships, that would probably help them in making the decision about admitting, because if they admit and then they don't offer funding to you, with assistantships. So I just think maybe they're asking to be clear whether they should offer funding to you or not. So, or you have already thought about funding and you have other options. I think I did indicate in my application that I'm planning to apply to Bolashak. You can and you don't have to do it. So if you indicate that, you are less likely to probably receive a funding offer from the university, or if you don't receive a funding offer, you can always ask if there is availability for funding and what scholarships are available and apply for them. Or you can even ask, if they ask that question, you can ask, can you advise what fellowships are available in the university or where I can find that information.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Next apply, please.
If I may ask.
Thank you.
I think apply was yes at first.
But I already asked, so I just would give opportunity to others. I would be last, I think.
Okay, good.
Thank you very much. Just quick question. My name is Dinara, and I'm really curious how visa procedures went for your husband and your, for example, mother and your kids, because I don't think it's an easy procedure, and how did it go? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. A visa for my family, my husband and my kids. So we applied together. We applied for J1 and J2. So I was J1 a student, and my husband and my son were J2. So that was the visa like type that we applied for. If you apply for F1 and F2, it's more like, I think, more common to apply for F1 and F2, but if you do that, then your husband or your spouse won't be able to work in the US. So that kind of limits your opportunities. And for my mom, they were on tourist visa, so they applied because they were visiting, so they were not here with us the entire time. They were visiting us for a few months.
Yeah, thank you. So does the university provide any chances, for example, to invite your mother to take care of your children?
I haven't heard of that. Like most cases that I heard were like you apply for tourist visa and then they can come up to at a time. So they cannot stay here longer than they stay in Kazakhstan.
I see.
Yeah.
6 months, I think, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then I heard of cases, I think one of my neighbors from Mongolia invited her mother, and then she couldn't leave like after 6 months or whatever. Then they applied for extension while in the US, and I think her mother was able to stay for 1 year, but I don't know what are the consequences of that, whether they can come back after they return. So you have to make a case, and then I've heard of one case that like they were able to extend the stay for their like mom to take care of children, but I haven't heard much about that and how that process goes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Aygul, next, yes.
Thank you, Zhuldyz, for your great presentation. I have two questions for you. The first question is, why have you chosen US doctoral program instead of Europe, Canada, or other countries? And the second question, how you applied to any other universities and how many applications were submitted to other universities? You know, it's really expensive to submit even one application. And do you think it's necessary to submit many applications for different programs in order to increase your chances to be admitted? So could you please answer these questions? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Why US? I wanted to apply for the US because I was familiar more with the US system, and then I also had experience visiting the US more. So I've been here like multiple times before. So I thought I'm more familiar with the culture in the US, and then also the education system was like more familiar to me. So that was my reasoning for applying to the US, and I didn't apply to the programs in the UK. And for the second question, how many universities? Yeah, it is very expensive to apply to many universities. Of course, it's good if you can afford it to apply to multiple universities to increase your chances of being accepted. And I would also probably strategize in terms of the prestige of the universities that you are applying, and then the programs that you are applying. So then you have the variety of choices. So don't apply to only top like 3 universities in all of the. I applied to 5 universities. So so that would be probably the strategy I would use in making the decision. So your like financial situation, how many you can apply, and then trying to diversify the like types of universities that you are applying for.
Okay, who's next?
I think I'm the next one. Zhuldyz, thank you very much for this opportunity you provided us. I will actually just ask the questions that I wanted about why you choose US over other countries. So my question is about how your studies is organized in US. I might have missed this point. Thing is, my friends are doing PhD in UK universities. And as far as I know, all of the 3 years, they're doing the individual studies. Plus, they have the mentor, the supervisor. And they don't have any classes, just their own individual studies. I wonder how it is, how it works in US, and how many years you have classes if you have one, and how many years it takes for individual studies. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. It's a good question, and I addressed it some in my presentation, but I can speak more to that. So I think the big difference between the US and the programs in the UK is the coursework. There is required coursework in the PhD program. In most PhD programs that I know of, you are required to do the coursework, and then you are also doing your working on the progress towards your dissertation thesis. So for coursework, for instance, in our program, we have to take 48 credits of coursework and 24 credits of thesis credits. And when I applied for Bolashak, I applied for 5 years. So you make your program and then you apply for funding. So I applied for 5 years, and I completed my coursework in 2019. So it took me 3 years to complete the coursework, the required coursework for my program, and then I started registering for thesis credits. That's when you wholly focused on, your dissertation.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'd like to ask something again. So as a successful Nazarbayev University graduate, so how was your level compared to other students that applied to PhD in your university?
I don't know if I can compare my level. Maybe the way I would talk about it would be I was doing as well as my other peers. So I wasn't so we were going through, I mean, everyone has their unique path when they're doing a PhD, but I wouldn't say that I was any worse or better than my peers. And we had a very diverse cohort, as I said, from different countries. So I don't know, does it answer your question?
Yeah, it kind of does, thank you. I just concerned a little because I'm from Kazakhstan. My bachelor's was in a region of Kazakhstan, so that's why it's kind of important for me in master's.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I think, yeah, I wouldn't worry too much as long as you study and work. I mean, you can do it. That's what I believe. And you will have a lot of support as well if you are admitted in the program. And so that's my take on it.
Thank you very much, and I wish you good luck in your career.
Thank you very much.
So, the participants. Okay, one more questions.
Yes.
Sorry, please check also you have some questions written in chat.
Maybe I should stop sharing, right? So I can.
Sure. Yeah. I wasn't able to start my survey, but I would like to take some picture with you, with all our participants, if you don't mind, dear participants.
Sure.
Yeah, great. Apply. The most active how
What about
today's.
my question? Sorry.
Yeah, sure. Yes, Leila, please.
Okay. Zhuldyz, thank you for sharing this useful information with us. So my question is, you said that you had applied to 5 universities. So how many positive answers did you get?
This university was the only positive answer I get, actually, the University of Minnesota, and I was very like lucky. I think the thing in a because I didn't have much time and to do all of the research, and then I've applied to the programs that I probably shouldn't have applied, because I realized that I was in higher ed leadership, so I was applying to some higher education programs because I saw the faculty interests that align with mine, but there was probably no regional interest so because most of the higher education programs in the US are US context focused, so that was probably one of the determining factors in my applications in other universities. So I did get the letter from the University of Minnesota only. So,
and it was your dream?
It was my top choice, and as you noticed, I've explored it more. I talked to faculty so those factors, all of those things matter when you are applying, because they help you to have a better sense, and then you are like more familiar with the program. So that's, I think those, I wasn't able to do much research on other universities. I had very limited time, and I had a young child who was only like 3 months old. So I think I would approach it differently next time, and I was happy to be admitted to the program that I applied here.
Okay, great. Thank you for your response, and good luck.
Thank you, and good luck to all of you. Any other questions?
I have a question. Hi, Zhuldyz.
Hi.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
I'm also a mom of 2 toddlers, the same age as yours, so 2 sons. And I'm first year PhD here at Nazarbayev University, but I'm also thinking maybe to try my luck to abroad universities for this first year. And I was considering similar variation with the UK universities and Bolashak as well. But I didn't consider US. I don't know. It's a money-wise question, actually, with 2 toddlers, the financial way. How did you like cope with the scholarship? Was it enough for childcare and etc., funding, etc.? So this is the main concern, I think, for me. Yeah, thank you very much, and good luck in your studies.
Thank you so much. And it's a good question. And healthcare is extremely expensive in the US. And as I mentioned in the beginning, we couldn't afford childcare. And only after my husband started working, we started like sending our kids to childcare because it's very expensive. And Bolashak scholarship, of course, is not enough to sustain a family of 4 in the US. So my husband worked very hard to be able, to have all of those opportunities for us and for our kids. And now my older son is in kindergarten, so you don't have to pay. You only pay if you have them in the after-school care. It's not as expensive as daycare. And I would be happy to talk to you, like if you want in person, if you consider the University of Minnesota about like the opportunities and what are the options for childcare. So I'd be happy to talk through that if you are interested.
Yes, I am. Thank you very much. Yeah.
You're welcome. Yeah, you can email me.
Okay, thanks. I will.
Hi, sorry, can I ask a question? I wrote it in the chat, but I guess you have to ask it orally.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm only looking, and I didn't listen all of them because I saw. Yeah, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, so basically, sorry that I missed the beginning of presentation. You might have talked about it already. I don't know the age of your kids, but I wanted to ask about the adaptation process in terms of language, because both of my kids don't speak English. One of them is 5, the other one is 2. I'm not really worried for the 2-year-old, but the 5-year-old, she really enjoys her kindergarten at the moment, and I don't know how she may be adapting to the new social community. And I was just wondering how the process went in terms of language adaptation and social adaptation, playing with other kids. And the other one was about scholarship, but I think you answered it. So you got the Bolshak scholarship and you didn't get any financial aid from the university, right?
Yeah, I didn't apply for it because it was too risky considering our situation with family, and we couldn't take the risk of uncertainties of, like, trying to find a job. And then I was also not sure if I can actually combine doing the job and also doing a PhD program. So
yeah, sure.
it was perfect for us because I didn't have the pressure to work. So I hope that it would help me to balance those two aspects much better. So that's why I didn't actually consider much applying to funding, because I really needed that guaranteed scholarship funding for the entire period of my study. And your question about children is a very good question. With my older son, he was 1 when we came here. He was 1 year old, and he started talking much later than his peers. So we were really concerned about it because he was 1, he didn't talk yet, but he did, I think, start talking after 3 years old. And he currently, both of my kids speak mostly English. We speak Kazakh at home with my husband, and we try our best to answer their questions in Kazakh, but since they were socialized in daycare and then, in our neighborhood with other kids in English, that it's just easier for them currently to express their thoughts in English. So I am concerned about it when we go back, but what I noticed, like from young children, even if they're 5-year-old or 6-year-old, the stories that I heard of moms who are in the same situation, they are like very adaptable. They learn English like just 1 month and then they are talking English. So that's what I heard. These are the stories that I heard from other parents who came here with young kids, and they it wasn't difficult for them in terms of learning English and adapting to their environment here for the kids.
No, that's very encouraging. Thank you. And what about the coronavirus situation? Do they study online, or do they have a chance to go offline?
We were too scared to send them to daycare when COVID was dynamically evolving in the US. So we kept them home for 4 months. We didn't send them to daycare or anything. So I was taking care of them all that time and working only at nights after they went to bed. It was a really challenging period. Then after 4 months, we started sending them to daycare because it was really difficult to manage all of the workload that I had, because my husband was working full time. So it was on me, and it was too difficult to have them home and trying to also do the progress towards my dissertation. Currently they are in daycare. My older son started kindergarten this fall, and they are doing blended, like some days online, some days in person. So, and my other son is 3 years old, so he's in daycare. And
okay, thank you very much. That I can totally relate. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
I think it's over, all questions. Dear participants, would you like to take a picture with Zhuldyz, with our wonderful speaker? If you don't mind, please join us. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, thank you. And we have among us Ablai, who will do it. Yes. Great. Dear
So well,
thank you so much.
Cheese.
Yes.
Cheese. Let's do it now. Cheese. Yeah.
Cheese.
So yeah, thank you very much for others.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zhuldyz. Dear students, for your time, for your participation. And I think it's over. What you would like to say something to Zhuldyz, maybe our students?
Yeah, I wish all the best in all your future endeavors.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Sorry, I'm experiencing some internet trouble.
Yeah. Mulder, would you like to ask something
Here.
or say something?
Hear me?
Mulder?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Zhuldyz. I'm very glad to see you here in virtual live. Indeed, your journey definitely inspires a lot of people, including us, your group mates. And your passion to study was obvious years ago at Eurasian National University. And I wish you a lot. I wish you to achieve everything, what you want, what you aimed at. So could you share your future plans? What are you going to do after graduation from PhD program?
Sure, welcome back to Kazakhstan.
Thank you so much, Mulder. It's good to see you too. It's been a long time. It's great to see you. Thank you very much. Mulder was
Can you hear?
Yes, yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.